Yeah, after watching the tape, he was better than I expected that he was when I was walking off the field. And there's some great wow throws like to DJ Moore or to Roma Dunze. And then he throws a terrible interception. So what was your takeaway from Bears-Ravens?
They need to be better at quarterback. I mean, I think like we saw really where the formula was the week before and what they did to the Saints and being able to shut down their running game, and they ran for, what was it, like 230 yards?
Yep.
And, I just think so much of it right now hinges on their ability to do everything else well. And I think like the reality of it is, and this is something that sometimes you learn when a guy comes to the pros. Caleb Williams was more raw than people gave him, than people wanted to think, maybe myself included. And, I think there's like a lot of stuff he had to learn coming to the pros. And, I think so much of it is just learning how to play the quarterback position. And that sounds simple, but there's really a lot to it. And, I think that's why, there was such a process, and you guys remember this, over the month of training camp, before you get into the real season prep, where they were trying to figure out what he can do well and what he can't do well and what he's ready to handle. And that's why it looked bad. And I don't think Ben cared that it looked bad in the summer. I think he really felt like, he needed to go through a process of making Caleb drink through a fire hose. And then, as you get closer to the season, you scale it back to what you think he can do well. But, clearly he's an uber talented kid. I think he's a smart guy too. I think he's got all of that. And a lot of this comes back to what he's been asked to do and what he was asked to do as a college player. Now what he's being asked to do as a pro. And we'll see where it goes from here. It's a very different challenge for Ben than, coaching Jared Goff was, who, by the time, he got around Jared Goff was in his, I believe, his sixth year, his sixth year as a pro. So it's a much different challenge coaching a player at this stage than what Ben was dealing with in Detroit.
As we know, Albert, anything could happen in the National Football League, and we saw that the Jets finally won their first game against Cincinnati. But, boy, just the numbers are just eye-popping that Cincinnati relinquished. So what can we expect from the Bengals? What's the state of their outfit?
Well, I think you can expect a team that's going to play desperate because that's where they are again. And I think it was weird because I felt like you saw that desperation for them, in week 7 in the way that they played against the Steelers on that Thursday night. And then for one reason or another, like they had this game in hand the whole way and they just took their foot off the gas at the end and the defense couldn't get a stop. And, I think there was a little bit of a brain lock there on offense. They throw the ball 3 straight times. I don't know if you guys watched the game, but that kind of bought the Jets more time to come back. And, I just think it's a team that, like, because they've got so much of their investment in the passing game, in the offensive passing game, it's a team that can have trouble winning different ways, and, so I think some of the issues that you saw on defense last year that really cost them came back to haunt them at the end of this game. And, and then just as far as what they are offensively, can they grind out the tough yards? Well, they couldn't get the one first down they needed to get when they needed it most at the end of that Jets game. So, they're 3-5 now. What they're desperately trying to do is get themselves into a position where in the middle of December, whenever it is, when Joe Burrow's ready to come back, that they're still in the race. And they are running out of margin for error now with 5 losses. So this is a big one for the Bengals, no doubt.
Albert, the trade deadline a week from today. Anything popping up that you think, wow, that could be a blockbuster? Anything big out there potentially?
I think I personally think that the Browns should trade Myles Garrett. I know that sounds crazy. I have my reasons for that, most of which have to do with timelines, like how quickly for the Browns can you get really good, and does it match up with what's left of Myles Garrett's prime? I don't think it does. But that, I don't think that's going to happen, right? Like, so I'd be looking at like a Miami, are they willing to sell off their pass rushers? Bradley Chubb, Jalen Phillips. Those would be the two like names there. Where are the Jets at? Are the Jets, looking at some of their young talent and saying, like, are we going to re-sign a Jermaine Johnson if somebody came along with somebody make an offer to them for him? Brees Hall, where are they at with him? Are they going to extend Brees Hall? If they aren't, like, that's somebody to bring home a return. Tennessee's open for business. The Raiders are open for business. Then, like, and you look in the NFC, then, like the Saints would be the one where, you look at some of their players, like a Rashid Shaheed. I think they're going to re-sign Olave, but Olave certainly elicited phone calls and will elicit phone calls. And then the defensive side, they've got some older veterans like Demario Davis. They might be willing to move. So, look, we all make a bigger deal out of this, I think, than the teams do this time of year. Generally, the moves are to augment, not like just flip your roster upside down. But I mean, we've seen surprises in the past, so we'll see if one of those comes.
In terms of Ben Johnson, Caleb Williams, we always like to talk about that relationship. Do you think, armed with the knowledge he has today, Ben Johnson, that if he was a year ago thinking about where's my next move, he would take the Chicago job, or I'm not sure what he would do because he spent enough time around Caleb? How would you answer that?
Well, I know his family loves the Midwest and had a great experience in Detroit, and so like that was part of it. I know that he was comfortable with the structure in Chicago, and believe it or not, like I can tell you that like quarterback was important, but it wasn't number one on his list of priorities. Like I think what he witnessed in Detroit, more than anything else, was really strong organizational alignment, and like that everybody was pulling in the same direction. And I think to a large degree he's gotten that so far in Chicago from Ryan Poles, from Kevin Warren, from the McCaskies. Like I think for the most part, when it comes to like, all right, like here's the vision for the team and we're all in lockstep and we're building towards that vision, like I think he's actually gotten that. So that's why I would say yes. And remember, like if it doesn't work out with Caleb, which we're far from that, right? Like, but if it weren't to work out with Caleb, and this is a guy who did make it work a different way in Detroit. No one thought Jared Goff going to Detroit was going to be their quarterback 5 years later, but here he is, and he's an MVP candidate. And more of those sorts of opportunities, I think at least, are going to continue to come along as teams continue to fail young quarterbacks. We've seen it with Baker Mayfield. We've seen it with Sam Darnold. We see it now with Daniel Jones. So, I think Ben's got confidence in his ability to make it work at quarterback, over the long term. And I just think like what he was looking for organizationally, for the most part, he's gotten there. And look, they're 4-3. The sky isn't falling. So, it's a long-winded way of saying, like, yeah, I think, like, I do think, like, he's happy with the way he's got it set up right now in Chicago.
Albert, lastly, and we appreciate your time. This is going to be a great column for somebody. Is there anyone in sports that has the production, the dominance, and the global reach of Otani in the NFL or NBA?
No.
How crazy is that?
I don't think so. I mean, it's funny. You look at that contract the Dodgers gave him, and isn't that worth every penny? You know what I mean?
Like, not even close.
Oh my God!
What you can do, like if you're the Dodgers and selling your brand in the Far East now. I mean, I can't imagine what that's like. How much money they can make off of that? You know what I mean? Like you have the biggest star, and it's not just Japan. It's like that entire region of the world that makes you accessible to people there. You know what I mean? And the number of people. Tokyo is the biggest city in the world, I believe, right? So like
Chicago.
I don't know. I mean, like when we're talking about domestically, yeah, like, you know, Mahomes is a massive star and football is a huge deal here. Like I don't think people in the Far East know if a football's puffed or stuffed. All due respect to the NFL's, all due respect to the NFL's efforts over there. I think most people. I think you put most people over there. If you put it in front of them, they wouldn't know what the rules are. You know, and they actually play baseball over there. So, football's got a long way to go. That's why they're pushing flag. Football's got a long way to go in that regard. I mean, football is so dominant in this country, but when you're talking about like just internationally, baseball's ahead of them, basketball's ahead of them. I mean,
soccer,
like even
obviously,
hockey,
yeah.
Even hockey guys, you know what I mean? Like there are more kids playing hockey in Europe, I would think, than American football, right?
Oh, I would think so. How many people do you think are? You're right. Tokyo's number one. Like Chicago, I think
I mean, think about that, guys. Think about that. There is a city bigger than New York overseas where the Los Angeles Dodgers are probably treated like the home team now.
Okay, so how many people live in Tokyo, do you think?
You're asking for my guess. I would say in Tokyo proper, what is it, probably 25 million, 30 million?
37 million people.
Oh, my God.
Wow.
But think about that, right?
Yeah.
Think about that. Like, million. That contract that they gave him, that is the best money spent. You know what I mean? Like
double New York. New York's 18.8.
How many Dodger hats are there in Tokyo?
Oh, my God.
Like, how many Dodger hats have been sold? How many Dodger jerseys have been sold? It's worth every single penny.
Oh, it's not even close. And that's why when Jerry Reinsdorf said, we ain't going to be in the Otani
Can you imagine?
Thing. Right.
Like, how is history going to look back on this in however many years when we look at the Angels and they had Otani and Trout on the same team?
Yeah.
Yeah. Unbelievable.
Albert.
Now, that's a good one. I'm going to think of a football equivalent for that one because that is unbelievable.
That's a column for somebody, I'm telling you. Albert, thank you, sir.
All right. Thanks, guys.
You're the
Have a good
best.
one.